When people talk about General Hospital, they often say it is about love, betrayal, family, crime, redemption, the usual soap ingredients. But sometimes I think it is more about identity, about how someone sees themselves and what happens when that self-image starts to crack. And right now, the character who feels like she is standing right on that crack, almost slipping, is Jordan Ashford. Jordan has always been framed as the woman of principle, the law, the badge, the one who hates betrayal with a kind of personal disgust, not just professional obligation. She does not tolerate liars. She does not forgive easily when trust is broken. That has been her brand for years. So when spoilers tease that she might actually be the one deceiving everyone, it hits differently. It feels ironic in a way that is almost uncomfortable. Because yes, Jordan is pretending to work for Sidwell. She is playing a dangerous game, getting close to him, earning his trust, accepting his money. Officially, it is for justice. She wants evidence. She wants to take him down properly, not just emotionally or symbolically, but legally, permanently. And on paper, that sounds noble. Undercover work is not new in Port Charles. People have done worse for less righteous reasons. Still, there is something about how comfortable she looks lately. That part bothers me, maybe more than it should. Jordan has been spending Sidwell's money, living well, dressing well, moving through rooms with the ease of someone who no longer has to check her bank account before making a decision. I am not judging her for enjoying financial security. No one should have to struggle all the time to prove they are moral. But when someone who has always defined herself by sacrifice suddenly seems at ease with luxury funded by a criminal, even if temporarily, it changes the energy. And I keep asking myself, does pretending to be corrupt, even for a good cause, slowly blur the lines inside you? You tell yourself it is all an act. You say you are just gathering proof. You reassure your conscience that you are still the same woman. But day after day, you sit across from a man like Sidwell, you laugh at his jokes, you accept his gifts, you nod along. At some point, is it still acting, or does something shift? I am not saying Jordan is evil. Not yet. But I do think she is standing in a gray zone she underestimates. Then there is the pregnancy rumor. That is where everything becomes messy, tangled, almost absurd. Jordan has shown signs that look like pregnancy. Fans immediately think of Curtis Ashford. Of course they do. Curtis and Jordan share history, chemistry, unfinished business that never truly died. Even when they were apart, there was always that undercurrent, that look, that pause in conversation that lasts just a second too long. So the idea that she could be carrying his child feels dramatic but believable. It fits soap logic, it fits emotional logic too, but I cannot shake the feeling that something is off. What if the pregnancy is not real? What if it is part of something darker, more calculated? Let us be honest about the situation. Curtis and Portia Robinson are barely holding their marriage together. Portia cheated. She lied about paternity in the past. She was unsure whether Curtis was the father of Trina at one point. That kind of fracture does not disappear just because you say sorry. It lingers. It stains everything. Jordan knows this. She sees the cracks. And Jordan still loves Curtis. I believe that deeply. Maybe she has tried to move on. Maybe she convinced herself that chapter was closed. But love like that does not evaporate. It waits. Quiet. Patient. So imagine this scenario. Chaotic and morally questionable, but not impossible. Jordan sees Curtis drifting. She sees his disappointment in Portia. She hears the longing in his voice when he talks about the years he missed with Trina Robinson. He missed her childhood. He missed first steps, first heartbreak, first everything. That regret eats at him. You can see it. Curtis wants another chance at fatherhood, a fresh start, a baby he can hold from day one. And Jordan knows that. Now imagine Jordan already living a double life with Sidwell, already comfortable bending the truth for a larger mission, deciding to bend it further, just a little more. She and Curtis have slept together recently. That part is real. So the timeline exists. The possibility exists. All she would need is confirmation, or rather a fake confirmation. This is where Britt Westbourne comes into play. Britt is an OBGYN. She has the credentials, the authority, the voice that would make a pregnancy official in the eyes of everyone else. If Jordan wanted to fake medical evidence, Britt would be the key. Whether through pressure, blackmail, emotional manipulation, or some twisted sense of loyalty, Jordan could try to force her cooperation. It sounds extreme, I know, but soap operas thrive on extreme. I keep circling back to jealousy. It is not a pretty emotion, but it is human. Jordan watching Portia still technically married to Curtis. Watching them attempt to repair something that Jordan believes is already dead. Watching Portia cling to a man she betrayed. Would that ignite something reckless in Jordan? I think it might, because here is the uncomfortable truth. Jordan has always believed she is morally superior to Portia. More honest, more disciplined, more deserving of Curtis's respect, and in many ways she has evidence to support that belief. Portia lied about paternity, Portia cheated, Portia made selfish choices, but superiority can morph into entitlement. And entitlement can justify almost anything if you let it. Jordan might convince herself that she is not stealing Curtis, she is rescuing him, giving him the life he deserves, a stable partner, a new baby, a clean slate. If she frames it that way in her mind, the deception becomes less ugly, more strategic. And that is the slippery slope. I am torn because part of me admires the boldness of such a storyline. It would be daring. It would challenge the audience's perception of Jordan in a way we have not seen before. She would not just be the betrayed ex or the righteous cop. She would be complicated, flawed, maybe even villain adjacent. But another part of me feels uneasy because if Jordan fakes a pregnancy, that is not a small lie. That is emotional warfare. That is manipulating a man's deepest longing for a child. That is using motherhood as a weapon. And yet, the show has laid the groundwork so carefully that it almost feels intentional. Jordan growing comfortable with Sidwell's money, Jordan living a softer, more indulgent life, Jordan operating in secrecy. These are not random details. They suggest transformation, or at least temptation. Could her goodness be redefined? Could she decide that ends justify means? If she can lie to a criminal to bring him down, maybe she can lie to a husband to break a marriage that is already fractured. In her mind, she might see no difference. There is also the possibility that the fake pregnancy begins as a lie but evolves. Maybe Jordan plans to trap Curtis emotionally first. Let him leave Portia. Let him commit to her. And then, later, she truly tries to conceive, turning fiction into reality. Erasing the original sin by producing an actual baby? That kind of logic is twisted but very human. People do strange things when love and insecurity mix. I do not think Jordan started this path intending to become manipulative. I think it began with justice, with Sidwell, with wanting to prove she could still outsmart dangerous men. But somewhere along the way, the thrill of control might have seeped into her personal life too. There is a scene I keep imagining. Curtis looking at Jordan with hope in his eyes, hand resting on her stomach, whispering about the future. And Jordan smiling, maybe even tearing up, because part of her wants it to be real so badly that she almost believes it herself. That is what makes it tragic. Not pure villainy, but self-deception layered on top of deception. Fans might hate her if this theory proves true, or maybe they will understand soap audiences are strange. We forgive murderers but condemn emotional betrayal more harshly sometimes. It depends on framing. If Jordan is portrayed as desperate rather than malicious, as a woman who felt sidelined and chose the wrong path to reclaim her happiness, viewers might stay with her. If she is shown coldly, orchestrating everything, calculating every tear, that would be harder to swallow. I also wonder about Britt's role. Britt is not exactly a saint either. She has lied before. She has manipulated medical information in the past. So, convincing her to falsify pregnancy evidence would not be completely out of character for the show's history. The question is motivation. What would Jordan offer her? Protection, money, leverage. And what happens when the truth comes out? Because it always does. Imagine Curtis discovering that the baby he has been dreaming about never existed, that the ultrasound was fake, that the heartbeat was staged. The devastation would be brutal. It could permanently destroy any chance Jordan has with him. Which brings me back to the core issue. Is Jordan willing to risk losing Curtis forever for a chance to have him temporarily? That is the gamble. High stakes, no guarantee. Sometimes I think the pregnancy might actually be real and all this suspicion is just the show teasing us. That would be the simpler route. But simplicity is rarely the direction this series takes when there is an opportunity for emotional chaos. I find myself oddly fascinated by the idea of Jordan stepping into morally murky territory. Not because I want her to fall, but because I want her to feel real. People who define themselves by righteousness often struggle the most when faced with personal loss. They either double down on morality or abandon it entirely in one reckless move. Jordan standing in a luxurious apartment funded by Sidwell, touching her flat stomach, calculating her next move. That image stays with me. It is not the Jordan we are used to, yet it is believable if you trace the emotional breadcrumbs. She loves Curtis. That is the anchor. Everything else spirals from there. And if jealousy toward Portia is part of it, I cannot entirely blame her. Watching the man you love stay bound to someone who hurt him would be unbearable. But turning that pain into manipulation, that is where sympathy thins out. In the end, whether the pregnancy is fake or real, the bigger story is about transformation. Jordan may think she is still the woman who despises betrayal. But if she is orchestrating a deception this intimate, she has already crossed a line she once swore she would never approach. Maybe that is the point. Justice and love do not always align. And when forced to choose, even the most principled characters can surprise us. I am not certain how this will unfold. Part of me hopes I am wrong about the fake pregnancy theory, because if it is true, the fallout will be explosive and painful. Yet another part of me cannot deny the dramatic potential, the messy confrontations, the tears, the shattered trust. Whatever happens, Jordan is no longer standing comfortably on the side of pure justice. She is balancing on that crack I mentioned earlier, and every lie, whether told to Sidwell or Curtis, makes the ground beneath her just a little more unstable. Maybe she will step back before she falls. Or maybe she will decide that falling is worth it if it means landing exactly where she wants to be, beside Curtis, baby in arms, truth buried somewhere deep where no one can reach it. That is the danger of rewriting your own morality. Once you start editing the rules, it becomes easier to erase entire chapters. And Jordan, whether she realizes it or not, might already be holding the pen.